Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Good, good, good. Moreness, everybody. And I do think I have figured out Instagram Live. Well,
Okay, that's good.
if there are any
Hello.
Iggers, is that what you call them? Iggers?
I don't know what you are saying. Okay, I'm just busy right now.
IG-ers.
Anyway, hello, sir.
It's okay, Beena. I'll take care of it.
Hello,
You
sir.
carry on.
Hello.
Oh, hello, Beena. Hello, Beena.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good
Good
morning,
morning.
sir.
Good morning.
And good morning to everyone.
Good morning, Norma. Even though she might not be here yet, but good morning if you are.
Yes.
So we are also to welcome to all the Iggers. I don't know if I'm saying I call them Iggers. Maybe they called IG-ers. Yes. But I like Iggers. That's a much better term. Huh? Don't you think? It's kind of cool.
Yes.
I'm an Igger. And it's like eager. See, but Igger. I don't know. It seems cool to me. It seems cool to me.
Yes.
Soul's craziness. It works for me. It works for me. We got to be a little bit crazy. Add fun. Add fun to the world. And also, we are a little bit crazy. It keeps us from not taking ourselves too seriously. Yes?
Yes.
That is most important. In other words, want to connect it back to a conception that falls under, in the dictionary of power, Nincompoopery-Management. Lots of
Yes.
managements, right? Attention management, awareness management, association management, habit management, energy management, mood management. Included in that is Nincompoopery-Management. Very important. Very, very important. Because, yes, we are looking not to be nincompoops in general, but it doesn't mean everything about nincompoopry is negative. That this is absolutely essential to be aware of. Absolutely essential to be aware of. Not everything, and it's like that with most tools. Yes, they sometimes have appropriate application. When it comes to play, yes, nincompoopry is essential for play in many times. Yes,
Yes.
creativity. Yes, you can use sobriety for creativity, but nincompoopry is very handy in that too. And just humor. Well, nincompoopry is very closely associated with fun. Of course, you know, we get much of our ideas of fun from like the comic books, right? I mean, Beena, you set
Yes.
up at some point, you set up the bucket over the door of water.
Yes.
I tried this too, but it is such an absurd idea. Not only that, but the practical application of it is nearly impossible, right? This doesn't work. Yeah.
Yes.
And thirdly, if you actually use the bucket, like when I was a child, there were no plastic buckets. They were all like cast iron buckets, right?
Oh
Or
my God. Oh my
yeah, they
God.
were metal, in other words. I mean, that's why I didn't do it. You're right. I did later find something that I could use. It was more of a basin than a bucket. But when you'd hurt somebody, you seriously hurt somebody dropping a heavy bucket, metal bucket full of water on the head. And they used to have like a rim at the bottom as well. Now, the idea was to get it to tip. But if that rim catches you, even the top of it, oh, come on, man.
Oh,
Besides making a mess in the house, right?
yes.
I mean, who cleans up that
Yes.
mess? With the
Oh,
water all over
yes.
the show.
Oh,
But you know
yes.
what fascinates me about this is the bubbleness of it, right, Beena?
Yes.
Also, when I later came to think about it, I'm like, but this is a nice. At the time, I most decidedly, thought to do it and tried even, right? Probably on my brother, because I couldn't imagine doing this to my mother or my sisters even. He would have been the target. Right?
Hmm.
But at the time, it was a cool idea and a fun thing to do. You had the belief that it would be fun. And that's what motivated you to actually try and do it. Right, Beena?
Yes, exactly.
Where did this come from?
Storybooks, comics, magazines,
Superiority
movies,
paradigm.
movies.
Yeah. But it's a superiority paradigm when you go all the way out, right?
Yes, yes,
It's fun to do something that is unpleasant to somebody else. Huh?
yes,
Really? Oh, when you say it that
yes,
way, like if you were
yes,
kids and I came along, right? So
yes,
imagine child Beena now. Here comes Syl. So I said, oh, what are you
yes,
doing? Oh, we're setting up the bucket on the door. We're gonna prank somebody. We're gonna do it. So, oh, okay, that's very interesting, quite fascinating. So what happens to them? Oh, they get all wet. Oh, is this nice for them? I'll ask you, Beena. So you young Beena. So what happens? Oh, they're gonna
yes,
get all wet, right? Now I'm gonna ask you
yes.
another follow-up question. All right, and so when they get all wet, do they like this? Do they enjoy this, Beena?
No.
Ah, so you were gonna have fun making somebody else unhappy and miserable.
Yes.
Really? That's fun? You see my point? In that moment
I
of
understand, Syl.
asking the
But
child,
I was
the,
just, I was
right,
responding as a child because I really
correct, correct,
literally did
correct. The
that.
child is going to say yes, but then also
Yes.
the child, then if you've asked the follow-up, say,
Feel,
really? Is that really you? Do you personally really think? I know somebody else thinks this is fun, but do you think now that you thought
yes.
about it this
Now,
way? And you're going to say, oh, yeah, now that you say it this way, you've taken all the fun out of it.
yes. Yes.
I mean, I'd be the
Yes.
killjoy, right? But
Exactly.
that's the key point. We never get to hear this, right? And so we
Yes.
perpetrated all this nonsense, believing it would be something that is there. But where does that idea come from? It's a pure superiority paradigm nonsense, right? Absolutely and totally. Yes. I mean, this is what the whole hierarchy is about, pushing others down, pulling others down so that you look better by comparison. And of course, it translates into fun. But that's the joy comes from, oh, I'm superior to you. In that thing, it's a prank and it's ha ha, it's funny. But funny based on what? It's like when I went to the circus that first time, and the one clown was bending over and playing with a little, or interested in the fake flower, and I'm like, dude, you'll be looking at this thing way too long. I mean, he stood there for ages. Eventually, the other clown with the huge, shoes that were like 3 feet long shoes comes walking up and kicks him in the backside, and this was just hilarious. The whole audience thought this was the funniest thing ever, and I was horrified. Same logic, right? I mean, what's funny about that? You being nasty to somebody, you being harmful to somebody. It's not funny. Anyway, just absolutely astonishing. Bubbles, 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 beliefs. Yeah. Okay, let's get going, Beena. Let's get going. Let's get going. Yes. What do you think? You have any thought for the day you want to share?
No, you just shared something really wonderful today because it was also that, okay, the pressure of the should, that because
Yeah.
all my
Exactly.
cousins and my friends are doing
Exactly.
this, so I need to be part of it.
Right.
And
No.
somehow get into the superiority paradigm because they are
Yeah.
saying that you
Yeah.
have to do this,
Right.
even
Peer
if you
pressure. Peer
disagree.
pressure. In other words. Correct.
Yes,
Correct.
yes.
And
So
lack of independence of being, in other words, too.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
And it's a huge deal, when you say it out like this. In other words, think it through to the end. Yes. Now, I mean, I asked specific questions, but I could have just said to young Beena, said, "Oh, you're putting this up, okay, and then what? And then they get wet, and then what?" Yeah. I mean, we
Yes,
didn't even get to the end of that. Uh, uh, you know.
exactly.
Well,
Yes, but
and
that,
then
that, that
and
was
then like and then you say even more right after, are they happy? Well, and then who cleans us up? Oh,
yes.
no thought to even cleaning it up,
Nope, nope.
right?
Yes,
No thought even.
yes. Oh. Okay.
I
So
mean, if
will
we
you?
had thought that, we wouldn't have done it, right, Beena?
Yes. Okay.
Like,
So
it's not worth it. And also getting into trouble.
yes.
I wouldn't necessarily have gotten into trouble for making my brother wet, but I certainly would have been gotten into trouble for creating a mess on the floor, even if I cleaned it up. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Sir, please continue reading. I'm
Okay.
listening, but I'll not be responding for a few minutes.
Ah, no problem. No problem. There we go. Wow. Screen share. Oh, let's turn off the sound. There we go. Yeah. Self, honesty, power. What we were talking about, Beena. We didn't stop doing those things because we grew up. We stopped doing because we became aware that they were nonsense, that they were foolish, that they were not nice, right? That they didn't make any sense, that they weren't actually funny. Yes? Right, Beena? Does that make sense? Are you muted? Yes, you're muted. Beena? You're still muted. Beena said she was busy. But anyway, I mean, I like to confirm with Beena, but I'm pretty sure that she will confirm this to say that we stopped doing those things because we understood them to be not nice, right? We could not continue in good conscience. In other words, our self-honesty allowed us to say we are being foolish. Yes, we are being foolish. Not the original pranksters were foolish, them too, yes. But to say, wow, I got caught up in the foolishness here. And this is not me. This is not cool. Yeah. But I've seen this where people do foolish things and they can't acknowledge that they were being foolish and they just get stuck. Right. Like that employee who came in, I won, I won, I won, I won. And he was like beyond the moon excited. We thought he'd won the lottery. What did you win? Oh, I won my eBay auction. I said, you mean you were the one who overpaid the most? He didn't like that. Well, I was teasing him a bit, but he didn't have the self-honesty to acknowledge and realize, oh, yeah, I got kind of caught up in the hype. And, this is great marketing by eBay, which led me to essentially be the one to overpay the most. Yes. Because he was so keen on winning that the bidding went crazy. I forget what it was, but he had ended up overpaying for it. So, this is a huge deal. If we don't have that self-honesty to acknowledge, um, it's a big deal. It's a very big deal. Then we get stuck in our nonsense, and we don't want to be stuck in our nonsense. This is not ideal. Not ideal at all. Just get my chat settings up here on the side so I can see when Norma comes. Beena says hello. Hello, hello, Beena. Wonderful, 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 most wonderful. I think if you're coming, Norma, I hope so. Yeah, interesting. This self-honesty power, right? The power of self-honesty is profound, incredibly profound. I cannot emphasize this enough because if we can't acknowledge like that employee that basically he'd been suckered, right, and been manipulated really through the marketing, all right, it's his own choice, but still he kind of fell for it, yeah. He couldn't update, and he probably would redo it. Yeah? Or if not redo it, it's still the learning experience is minimized by the refusal to acknowledge it, right? Even if you internally acknowledge it, then he might next time, well, I did kind of get caught out. It might change his behavior, but it still prevents from that bigger learning. Yeah? All right, self-honesty power. What are ways to improve one's self-perception? Dear Jordan, that's a most powerful question. Also, a most important one. And well, also a very seldom asked question, despite its massive importance. Just asking this question is a big deal and says much about you, as it implies a necessary humility, which will be absolutely necessary for the accurate acquisition of a real self-perception. First, we have to start with self-honesty. Yes, yes. That deserves to be a new paragraph. First, we have to start with self-honesty, as without it, this essential, there's no hope, and all we'll end up with is an inaccurate distortion. I cannot emphasize enough how important self-honesty is, not only for acquiring self-perception, but also for self-growth and learning. Because without being honest with ourselves, we tend not to acknowledge that which is not so good about ourselves. We tend to refuse to claim our ignorance and deficiencies. If we can't be real with ourselves about needing to learn and grow, how will we ever improve? Yeah, if we can't be real with ourselves, how will we ever improve? Beena, I'm assuming you're taking care of the notifications there, right? Somebody asking questions probably. Unfun truth. I want to put in, we tend to refuse to claim our ignorance, uh, deficiencies, and nincompoopry. Yes, I think since nincompoopry came into it, Beena and I were chatting about this. That's important, yeah. Very important. Yes, and it's a good word. It's a good word. You know, we tend to be, at least when we grow up and we have a lot of superiority paradigm nonsense in us. Ignorance, all right, I can still do ignorance. Deficiencies, I'll no. No, sorry, we don't even want to acknowledge this word. Even ignorance, we struggle with. Nincompoopry, yeah, okay, it's got a fun element to it, so I can still sort of acknowledge that, right? So it's very helpful there, just in terms of easing into this point. And this is about understanding how we are as people. We have resistances towards things because they carry a lot of baggage. But you can say the same thing in a different word, a different concept, a different term, and now it's more acceptable. At the end of the day, it's the same thing, you know. It's like saying BS instead of bullshit. BS makes it acceptable. What's the difference? The same thing, isn't it? Yeah, not exactly as in my book. I spell out the difference. Why? It's the chapter is called "The Bullshit of BS." BS is trying to minimize the ugliness of bullshit. Bullshit is ugly. Why? Because it's lies. It's not just lies. It's a deliberate manipulative deception. Don't say BS. Oh, it's just exaggeration, just colorful. It's, right, this colorful idea. Oh, just having some, unusual character, idiosyncrasy, whatever. It's all absolute lies. It's all rubbish. Yeah, sorry. This is so critical though. But I'm just making the point about understanding psychology. That so often the terminology is critical to our ability to change. Yeah, and our self-perception also, that how we perceive ourselves is very, very terminology dependent, conception dependent. It's amazing. Yeah, I mean, some people are happy to say I'm ignorant, and some people are happy to say I've got deficiencies, and others are happy to say I'm nincompoop. I'm a nincompoop, right? I have a lot of nincompoopry in me. But what is one thing to say I am a nincompoop, and it's different again to say I have some nincompoopry in me. Some. See, the terminology. We have those inner bureaucrats, and they bureaucrats. The precise wording is very important. Right? Go and look at bureaucratic writing, and you're going to see. Yeah, it's legalese. Yes, there's no difference really, right? I mean, the people who actually make up the actual writing of the laws, bureaucrats. Yeah, they may be lawyers, but it's a bureaucratic function. Unfun truth. I'm laying the needed groundwork required before we come to dealing with how exactly to acquire self-perception. Crucial to all this is facing and dealing with the awful truth. Crucial to all this is facing and dealing with the awful truth. This is so crucial, this ability to face and deal with the awful truth. I cannot emphasize enough how essential and empowering this ability is, because once we've faced and dealt with the awful truth, it turns into an awful truth. It's an incredible process, wonderfully liberating as well. Dealing with ourselves and discovering we are really just nincompoops needing to learn, and becoming aware that we can learn transforms all that anxiety of being, self-doubt, fear, indecision. I need to add insecurity. Insecurity is at the root of it. I'm surprised that it's not in there. Biella is slipped up on that one. And all the other problems non-learning and non-growing foster into release. Yeah. Right? Becoming aware that we can learn. This transforms all that anxiety of being and all the other problems, non-learning and non-growing foster, into release. Yeah. It's a big deal here. It's a big deal. If we can learn to do this, right? Face and deal with the awful truth, we transform these things. We transform them into release. It's huge, huge sentence there. Kind of a complex sentence structure, but still, big point. We, of course, still have much to deal with, as life is never-ending learning and growing. However, self-honesty leading to facing and dealing with the awful truth sets us on a path that soon leads to where learning and growth, instead of being stressful and avoided, becomes joyful, profound, and deeply fulfilling, sought after, and the best thing ever. And we come to seek and desire it for the incredible wonderfulness it is, especially the more we become attuned to life. Attunement is just too brilliant. Attunement is just too brilliant. Yeah. It is most magical. Look at this wonderful path. Yeah. That's very cool. Windows to the world, and I don't know, just everything involved. Very cool. Reflective inference. Wow, that's a nice chapter, subheading. Reflective inference. Wow. Because we can't see ourselves directly, we have to rely on other means of self-perception, such as reflection and inference. We can, of course, also ask others for their opinions, but unfortunately, this method is problematic, as it not only needs the ability to honestly share not so nice perceptions, but also requires the skill of discernment and an objectivity, which is difficult to find. It's very hard to find. Yeah. One could go to therapists, counselors, etc., and ask for an interview or a series of interviews for the express purpose of evaluation and honest sharing of that assessment. But there still we're going to run into problems. Yeah. And because you go to a counselor or a therapist and you ask them for an interview or a series of interviews for the express purpose of evaluation of who you are, right? And an assessment of who you are. I pretty much guarantee you that 99 times out of 100, that perception from the therapist or the counselor is going to be one that includes some areas of work that you need to do on yourself. It's just how their brains are set up. They're set up to see you in a particular way. Yeah. I don't think you're going to come away from that where they're going to say, well, you're fine as you are. There's nothing that you need to change. You're okay. And for many people, this is the reality, right? Doesn't mean that they cannot change. They cannot improve. They cannot add to their lives. Of course, there's always more. But the issue is, do they need to? No. They're quite fine. They're quite balanced. Everything's okay in their lives. It may be that their lives aren't particularly exciting. Does it mean that they need to change? Yes. They might not be negative or unhappy, but that doesn't mean that they, if there's no negativity and no unhappiness, doesn't mean that they have profound happiness and joy. No, they just have some, or they have enough, more than enough. Again, I don't think counselors are going to give this to you. More valuable, though. One could do the same with job interviews and ask for the assessment, although this may be more difficult to attain. Now, if you did job interviews and you got really skilled job interviewers that aren't looking for your qualifications and your experience, that they are looking to understand who you are as a person. I've been talking about the need for this or the value of this for a long time, right? For decades. But I'm starting to see it come into. I just saw yesterday for the first time. I saw a post in LinkedIn about this specifically, whether somebody said focus more on. Well, they didn't use these terms, but on your character rather than on your qualities of being, rather than on your experience and your qualifications. Much more important. But if you have interviewers that are skilled at reading people and looking at your psychology, who you are, they will give you some very good insight into yourself. Another place you could do it, which of course is very difficult to attain, would be from the recruiters or the personnel managers on professional sports teams. They're all completely and utterly aware of your skills, right? What your statistics are, how well you perform, all of this. They have total details on this before they are going to take you onto the team. So they know exactly what you are capable of from a talent point of view. Yeah, that's not going to determine whether you get onto the team or not. What's going to matter is whether you can fit in with the team. Now, all right, if you have exceptional skills and you're outstanding in a particular area, they may overlook the fact that, well, you're a bit of an aggressive person or whatever, right? You got anger issues or whatever. Right? They'll overlook that because your skills might override that. But if they're really smart, they'll look at how much you can be a team player, and 1 + 1 is equals more, right? And you get individuals that maybe can get high scores and all this, like in basketball, you see this, but they aren't particularly good team players. So those teams don't win championships, right? Even though the individual may have high scoring records and all that, right? And you have miserable teams as well, yeah. And you get some teams that don't win the national championships, right? But they have a huge following because they are teams that have teamwork and integration, and there's more stuff going on, right? And then they have a profound following because it's not just all about this individual scoring. They play as a team, and there's a lot of team stuff going on. So I'm just going a little bit of sideways here, but this would be this discernment. I remember a friend of mine who had played professional baseball, played for the Atlanta Braves. He said when he went for his first review, they called him into the office. He's quite young. He came directly from the school system, and he played a bit of semi-pro, like in Venezuela or someplace, and then he was recruited, right? So he was very young, very naive, and he didn't do very well at school. All he had really was the baseball, right? And so after his first period, I don't know, first season or whatever, they call him into the office for the review, and all the big shots are there, right? The owner and all the big shots are there, right? So first of all, he's intimidated just by the big shots, but then they play video of him and they start to essentially point out all of his flaws and foibles and poor character. And he says, "Oh my God, they were so brutal. I nearly cried." He was completely horrified at the brutality of their honesty. He said, "I couldn't handle it. It took me a long time to get over that." He said, "That brutality." And he said, they were so casual about it. Like they just said, "Look, Syl, yeah, you being an a-hole. I mean, yeah, you being a jerk." It's like, whatever. They said, you didn't say specifics, but, it was that kind of thing where they just told him straight out that, you just being an idiot here. And this was like really just a profound wake up call for him. That brutality of it, and it was something else. But of course, you have to do that, right? You have to have that. He saw it as brutal, but they were just being honest, and he had never experienced this in his life before. And of course, it profoundly affected his self-perception, which is what this chapter is about, to bring it back to self-perception. Again, right? if you in a corporation and you do have HR people there that do reviews and assessments, you might want to ask them if you really want to update your self-perception. Go and ask your CEO. Tell me in the most brutally honest possible way, please, if you don't mind, or write it out for me. I'd really appreciate this. What do you think of me? I want to update my self-perception. Tell me the awful truth that nobody else will tell me. If you can get people to share that with you, it's very profound. Right? Very, very useful here. Right. The problem is relying on the opinions of others, regardless of how honestly accurate they may believe they are, is not in the end all that reliable, because much of such assessments rely on perceptions which may not tell the whole story. For instance, how you deal with crises. They may never have perceived you in a crisis, so they have no idea. Others will never have full access to what all we are made of. Only we have access to this, although it's not that easy to be aware of. Our essential problem here, yeah, in self-perception. This is very crucial. Also, I went through much of my life having a public self and a private self. I wasn't trying to hide myself. My private self was just not appropriate in the general society. If somebody had asked, I would have told them, right? But they never asked, of course, right? But now, from from my social self, I fit in. I was cool. I was popular. I was all this thing. I was never false. That was who I was. But also, I was a profound psychologist and philosopher and all sorts of things on the inside, which they had no idea of. So if I went to ask them an assessment, they would not, they didn't know about that side. So the assessment would just be about how I'm behaving in society. And this is a very critical point. The assessment would be based on how I am behaving in society. Now, if you are really, really, really skilled at perceiving others, capital H hearing, you may be able to, through inference, be able to say, I see your behavior, but there's an implication here, yeah, and construct the moreness, right? That's possible. I mean, I know it's possible because this is what I practice and do, and I teach others to do it also, right? I mean, it's a difficult skill, capital H hearing, to hear the inner person. This is very difficult. Yeah. So that the point here that Biella is making is relying on the opinions of others, regardless of how honestly accurate they may believe they are, doesn't mean they actually are. Yes. They don't have access to all the information. Only we have, but it's difficult to access it via ourselves. Now let's see what Biella says here. Value and usefulness. So what can we actually do to acquire self-perception? We can apply, we can test, and we can make an effort to learn and grow. And most important, we can build ourselves. But you might say, I need to perceive myself as to how I am now. Yes, however, that may be somewhat perilous. What if who you currently are is not someone you'd like or wish to be, and discovering this is depressing and unmotivating, etc.? Dangerous. Yes, dangerous. But if we set out to get an idea of ourselves via testing ourselves in various life situations and seeking what actual value and usefulness we can acquire, then we have a real yardstick for actual accurate self-perception. But by implication here, what Biella is also saying, if I start implementing growth and learning, and I build a self-perception from the positive things that I'm doing, that positive self-perception is going to help me minimize the negative. In the beginning, it may not be accurate, but as you proceed and you make this accurate, in other words, she's saying, don't rely on what your self-perception is now. Build it to what you wish it to be. Yeah. And then because you're building it, you'll know it to be accurate. Yes. Because over time, if that's all you're doing and you don't have the negative things, well, there you go. Life is easy, right? But there's more, she says. Key to this process is first to understand there is a difference between personality and character. This is so amazing to me. People use these two terms interchangeably and they are completely not the same. When somebody sees you visually, yes, do they see your body? Unless you're naked, they don't. Then even if you are naked, do they see your health? No. You need other tools to see your actual state of health. You may be able to get an indication from the external, but somebody could look externally healthy and not be healthy. Yes, like they got cancer or something. Yeah, right. So that's what I'm saying, though. When you go character, it's like you're looking to see the person's health, but you're judging it by the clothing they wear. You can't do that, right? Or assessing it from that. Personality is much like clothing. We have a certain style, and within that style, we wear what is appropriate for the circumstances and situation. Personality changes, right? Same with personality. But character, that is our core, our constant, and is super, super precious. So character is like our health, not just our body, but our health. Yes, because we can even change how our body looks, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're not healthy. Yes, but also your body isn't all of you, right? Obviously, the analogy, it's an analogy, it falters, yeah? Because you might have a healthy body, but have unhealthy habits of psychology habits, right? Like self-pity. Hmm? So character. But character, that is our core, our constant, and is super, super precious. Character we build with great care and deliberation, much like a building's foundation. Because if not done right, much problems will result. Also, the more we develop our character, the more we'll develop the ability to be appropriate. And thus, the more we will develop a flexible, fluid, and adaptable personality. Wow, wow. This just came up in a chat with somebody, right? Flexible, fluid, and adaptable personality, right? So the more we this must be well. Right. The more we build our character, the more we develop the ability to be appropriate. And thus, the more we will develop a flexible, fluid, and adaptable personality, which can be whatever it needs to be and be so honestly and for real. Very important. Thus, our self-perception needs to be on what is actually the real self and not personality and temporary behaviors. Our character is thus mainly what we need to perceive, along with an awareness of our style, our um, desires, motives, and aspirations, especially aspirations. We forget about those. Right? We're so focused on ambitions that we forget about aspirations. And when you start to put the two together and understand the difference, aspirations, and then the ambitions tend to fade away when set next to aspiration. Key to this is sorting what is really important to us, what really matters to us, from that which we just believe should be important and matters. Of course, also to close the circle, what matters and is important to us is also valuable and useful. At least typically, this is so. Testing, substantiation, justification. Now we come to the nitty-gritty. Now we come to how to gain perspective, which is going to obviously help us to gain self-perception. Right? We do so via testing who we are and what we are made of. In other words, we test our character, as this is what matters. It's crucial to understand and be aware that self-perception is intimately connected to how we describe, or more importantly, how we conceive of ourselves. And these are filters that can severely affect and potentially distort self-perception. Absolutely critical, right? But this test is important. Like, for instance, I perceive myself as a patient person. Okay, let's see how patient you are. Let's go down to the DMV. 6 hours later, are you still patient? No, you got to come back tomorrow. Sorry, the line is closed. It is over. You didn't make it in time. Yeah, you were in the queue, but too bad. You have to come back tomorrow. Are you still patient? See? Are you patient just in one day like that? Or are you patient in life where you're waiting decades? Yeah. Are you patient with yourself? Are you patient with just life itself, right? Yeah. Okay. So test it. Let me know when you've actually tested it. Don't just believe stuff about yourself, right? So testing, substantiation, justification. Thus, we come to testing ourselves. Thus, before we come to testing ourselves, We need to set aside any self-descriptions or self-conceptions. This is absolutely crucial because that self-perception, it can act as a confirmation bias. If I believe I'm patient, right, and I say, okay, let me go and test this, let me go and see, because you already have the belief that you are patient. You only notice the instances in which you are patient. You tend to not notice the ones where you aren't because it doesn't conform to your original idea. This is confirmation bias. This is what it does, right? It distorts the filter of what you notice. And it only filters that which you want to notice in order to prove your original idea true, right? That's why it's a bias, right? It's a confirmation bias. You are confirming your bias. That's in the very word. Now, we can use this positively, but that's a whole nother long story, right? It takes a lot of skill to do that. But again, it's important in this understanding that if we are going to test, as Biella says here, right, that uh, thus, before we come to testing ourselves, we need to set aside any self-descriptions or self-conception. It's not easy, but vitally necessary. We may not be able to fully do so, and we need some measure of self-perception to function, but we do need to be fully aware that these existing perceptions can bias and influence our testing. It's so sophisticated, yeah, so sophisticated from Biella, so sophisticated. To understand this influence of your idea about yourself on your self-perception. You can, if you're not aware of this, you can go about and you can just confirm what you already believe, the false belief. And now, well, I went and tested it and justified it and substantiated. You still with the false belief. Yeah? Distorted and especially overly inflated self-perceptions can be disastrous and lead us into all sorts of all sorts of foolish and dangerous situations. I am reminded here of documentaries and videos I've seen where regular people challenge professional fighters. Go and look this up. Go and look this up on YouTube. I've shown some of this to Beena. It is the most profoundly ridiculous, but also valuable understanding. Yes, where regular people challenge professional fighters. I don't think I ever saw it with any woman doing this, but certainly young men. So there were some older men too, but predominantly younger men, right? Guys, foolish guys. It's just that male nonsense thing. Of course, the results are not pretty and disastrous. The common element leading to this foolishness is the unbelievably distorted and severely unsubstantiated and unjustifiable self-perceptions of these deluded individuals. They didn't go to the gym or dojo and ask to spar for the purpose of determining their skill level. No, instead, they challenged the master or professional to an actual fight, fully confident, of course, that they will win. It's astonishing behavior, as it, as it has very, very real and thoroughly unpleasant consequences. What's amazing is that this is not exceptional and isolated, but far more common than one imagines. Hence the need for appropriate testing. Yes, I mean there's a YouTube series on this, right? Where each episode, hour, whatever long it is, they show you multiple instances of these idiots doing this. And I mean they get hurt doing this, but you are going into a challenging a professional, the master, the head of the dojo, right? You challenging them to a real physical fight where you're going to get hurt, not a sparring match to test your skills, like I said, where, okay, you can. No, they are so convinced they can beat the master, and the ego is so huge. I remember this one dude who starts off when he enters onto the dojo mat and he goes down into this fancy squat and he's got his arms in this fancy elaborate pose. It looks fantastically cool, and I bet you he practiced that in front of the mirror. And man, he looked so cool, but it is a completely unrealistic fighting posture. It absolutely helped him absolutely nothing. He could do nothing from that posture. I mean, he's squatting really, one leg kind of out in front of the other. You can't even move. Anyway, comes and just kicks you or whatever. you no way to really defend yourself. You have no stability, no nothing, right? Even if you block with your arms, they'll just knock you over. Yeah, it's just like the absurdity of it is, yeah, it's just profound, just this idea, the bubble in their mind, they created this complete illusion and so strong that they actually got into trouble physically. And of course, after they get smacked the first couple of times, you see how this just goes away, and then they start covering up and running away and whatever. But even after getting beaten up, some of them still did not update their self-perception. Yeah, but if only, he caught me by surprise, or whatever. They all have all these excuses going on inside there. It's just the most incredible thing. But again, it's the point that if you don't let go of your self-conception and your self-description, your self-perception updates don't come through. Right? They didn't update this. There's a famous guy who keeps doing this over and over and over again, right? And he just never learns because he's so convinced in his mind, right? A legend in their own mind. I mean, even went to challenge this professional boxer, and the guy got really annoyed with him, and started to kind of beat him up and just to kind of stop him, and the guy still wouldn't acknowledge, and he still claimed that he won the fight. That now you're getting into the BS and the bullshit and the lies. It's a disease. It's a disease. It's really sad. Distorted and especially overinflated self-perceptions can be disastrous and leads us into all sorts of foolish and dangerous situations. Now, it doesn't just apply to these guys going and challenging the professional fighters, right? Where they have no skills whatsoever, right? And they just get beaten up. But in many other situations, like where people take charge of, for instance, a disaster type of a situation, right? And you're going to look to rescue somebody and whatever, and they just believe in their own skills, and of course they die in the process. It happens all the time. Yeah. It's really sad. So we have to be very careful of these self-perceptions. I am reminded here of documentaries and videos I've seen where I already said that, right? It's astonishing behavior as it has very, very real and thoroughly unpleasant consequences. What's amazing is that this is not exceptional or isolated, but far more common than one would imagine. Hence the need for appropriate testing. Yes, guys who think you are tough and fantastic fighters, go and do some appropriate testing, for heaven's sake. Sign up as a beginner. If you're so fantastic, you'll very soon get promoted, and you'll be a black belt in no time. But they all think they're beyond black belts, which is fascinating. Never mind being a black belt. No, being the whatever. No, they can go and beat up the master. Yeah. Well, in a lot of those dojos, they probably could because the masters are all BS. But the video showed it where there's like real fight, people who know actual fighting, not pretend fighting. Many of the ancient martial arts, they rely on theory, not actual practice. They don't do actual live sparring for real. Where yes, you put pads and gloves on, but you're still getting hit and you can feel it, and you realize, oh my goodness, if I didn't have a head pad, a padding on, the person didn't have nice padded gloves, I'm going to get really hurt here, right? I'm actually getting hit. Yes. So all that learning, you learn how to block and do this, you go through all the forms, but they never actually test whether they are actually able to block those punches or kicks or whatever. Yeah. So it's complete BS, and it's been going on for centuries. So it's fascinating. There is a guy, by the way, who's doing the reverse. And what's his name? Zidong, I think his name is. You can look it up on YouTube. He's in China, and he actually tests these masters, and he challenges them to public actual fights. And I think I shared some of this with Beena. It's quite hilarious. I mean, you see these guys, and they're also puffed up and self-important, and they come with their stances and this. And the next thing, he starts actually attacking them with real, actual fighting skills that's based on really getting hit, like modern martial arts, in other words, mixed martial arts. And he just beats these guys up. I mean, ludicrously so. Ludicrously so. And these are like renowned, very famous masters, right? That are top in their particular whatever martial art it is, right? And this poor guy, basically, because the martial arts from the Chinese government point of view, by the way, consequence of realness. It's an industry, right? And it's the image of China. And he's kind of saying, well, this is a load of BS, which it is. right? They basically started putting pressure on him. And they have the system where you get feedback in China, you get negative feedback, and it affects your credit rating and all sorts of it. It has physical, real world consequences. And they basically started putting the negative stuff on this guy and made his life very, very difficult. Yeah, it's astonishing, right? In other words, they didn't want him to prove that all these guys saying, whatever the martial arts are, um, kung fu and whatever. It's not realistic. It doesn't work, and he's proving it. Yeah. It's too incredible. Practical methodology. For me, I like to start such as Biella saying now, right? For me, I like to start such endeavors with a list of what's important and key. Having clarity of intent is essential and critical. Yes, yes. I mean, those guys who went to the dojo, did they have any clarity of intent? No. Well, yes, but not really thought through to the end, right? So it wasn't very clear. What was their intent in going there? They wanted to prove how fantastic and how superior they were. That's their point. Yes, ego. Not not the intent to assess their actual skills. Different. See? So they were looking to prove the existing self-perception, not to actually determine what it is. Two different things, yeah. If they had looked to go and determine their skills, different clarity of intent, yeah, they wouldn't have gone into those dangerous situations and got beaten up and just been made complete fools of. Not that your ego should care, but they cared. That this was like the absolute worst nightmare for them that they sought out. Fascinating. Yeah, I mean the risk reward is absolutely ridiculous there. No clue of risk reward. Knowing what one is doing makes all the difference, no matter what we are doing, but more so in matters that involve perception. The list I'd make here is one of the core character traits I feel matter and are most important and are important traits and qualities, just as the aforementioned self-honesty, which leads to integrity, which connects to ethical sensibility, which can also be seen as moral responsibility. Responsibility, when taken on fully, is huge and massively transformative, and thus absolutely necessary for our list. Taking these so far and grouping them together gives us sobriety. Taking these so far, yeah, and the so far doesn't have to be there. Taking these and grouping them together gives us sobriety, which here is taking in its original and full meaning of essentially being a super sensibility. We continue with traits and qualities such as patience, diligence, thoroughness, scrupulousness, and conscientiousness, which, when grouped, gives us that all important and essential character quality of impeccability. Now we come to qualities and abilities which affect perception itself. Thus, awareness, discernment, understanding, and related qualities, such as the ability to infer, connecting implications, a superpower when fully developed, the ability to truly listen, and thus to be able to fully hear others. Another superpower, since the skill can be applied to listening and hearing life and the world, and thus makes us attentive and observant. Rather obviously valuable and useful super skills. To this, we add our style or flavor of being, with choices such as kindness, generosity, compassion, caring, and perhaps even nobleness, if we are so motivated. Although nobleness is very much a bonus quality, one which comes from deep personal predilection and choice, as it's never required, since it's a bonus, goodness by definition. Since it's bonus goodness by definition. Yeah. I think I must hyphenate that there. It's bonus goodness by definition. There is much more we can add to our power list, but these will serve to get us going. Strategic application. Wow, there's a lot here. Now we come to implementation, which will lead to us obtaining feedback on ourselves and now building a deliberately constructed self. And from that, acquiring a self-perception that is not only real and accurate, but also as a bonus, a self-perception we actually want and which we are satisfied and proud of. A self-perception we can wear with honor and integrity. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Wow, right. Great point there. A self-perception we can wear with honor and integrity. Yes, very important. In this endeavor to obtain self-perception, we may as well multitask and obtain bonus value and usefulness. After all, of what benefit would it be to gain a self-perception that reveals us to be who we absolutely do not want to be? Yeah, that would be a bit useless, right? If we have that all-important self-honesty, then we can only make the effort to actually be who it is we want to be and will be comfortable being. So we may as well get on with it and through this all-important process, build and develop a self-perception that is worth something, yeah, to us. Some example. Let's start with patience, a true superpower, if ever there is one, as it enables so much and is almost always needed in some way, particularly with deep learning, such as what's necessary when it comes to self-building and acquiring accurate self-perception. As a bonus, opportunities to test and practice patience abound in abundance. Yes, they do, Biella. Yes, they do. Thus, whenever you are in a line involved in anything that takes time, simply set your intent to be aware of how patient or impatient you are. This not only has the benefit of revealing to yourself exactly just how exactly you are, but also practices your perception and evaluation skills, which are so critically necessary in all of this. The more we simply practice patience and evaluate, hello, cat. The more we simply practice patience. Oh, that's interesting. The cat was walking slowly by just here by the door where I can see it outside. And then as it got past, it turned around and went back the other way again, walking kind of slowly and deliberately. Yeah, most unusual. Hmm. uh, the more we simply practice patience and evaluate exactly just how much actual value and usefulness we obtain from our practice, the more we come to have something real from which to construct our self-perception, as we have some objectivity involved. If we can get value and usefulness, then something has to be real within us to obtain that benefit. It's also valuable here to practice our qualities of being in situations involving others and to gauge our perceptions so as not to fall into the trap of self-delusion. Keeping in mind that others can also be off in their perception as we don't always reflect exactly who we are internally. Thus, we also need to be aware when it comes to self-perception, whether we are interested in perceiving who we really are or if we simply want to know how others perceive us. Huh. Yeah, I mean, that's, when the question is loaded, how can I get accurate self-perception? From a capital H hearing point of view, typically that question means how can I get others to perceive me better, or more favorably? Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Wow. I didn't realize there was so much to this chapter. Oh, very good, Biella. Very good. Strategic assessment. We go through our list and practice and apply and learn as needed. And learn as needed. All this doing is essential, but not worth much if we do not also acquire the ability and habit of assessment. We need to be we need to constantly be assessing ourselves in any situation, interaction, involvement, and application. Make the effort to assess yourself, not only afterwards, but also during whatever it is we are doing. This will provide incredible and much needed information to build that self perception. How exactly did we respond? Did we react or respond? What did we feel? There must be question marks here. I thought there was something missing there. Question marks. So these are questions. Yeah. My spell checker didn't catch it. That's no good, spell checker. How were we stimulated, influenced, motivated, and otherwise affected by the experience? What did we do or not do? All these assessments and evaluations will build your self-perception and are the tools and methods for doing so. Yeah. All of these assessments and evaluations. Where am I now? Assessments, not a question mark there. Yep. All these assessments and evaluations will build your self-perception, and are the tools and methods for doing so. I'd recommend here developing the habit of going over your day before going to sleep. Much like a director will review all the takes of the day and assess what worked and what didn't. Yeah. So this when you go on a movie set, this they even have a name for it, I think, what they call that, right? They're reviewing the stuff, right? Going through it. Very helpful. But when you do this in your mind before you go to sleep, incredibly powerful. Through this, you will come to see yourself, especially if you develop that director mindset, which has to be objective and accurate, or the project will be distorted. This end of day review as a movie is very potent. You go a little bit further than that. This is part of Way of Impeccability. Is that when you do this review, you not only do so from the director's point of view, you also do it from an audience point of view, and you also do so from the actor's point of view. Yes, and also potentially from the other actor's point of view. Okay. So now, if you're really playing a role and you have a really profound, maybe you're struggling with the role, yes, and then the director says, if they're a skilled director, this is what I would do if I were a director, I would say, okay, you're playing the victim here, but you're struggling being the victim. Play the bully, play the manipulator, play the abuser for a little bit. Ah, okay, I see now, right? And you get that other perspective. Now, in the situation during the day, let's assume you are reviewing where you got bullied. Yeah. When you say, well, how could I have responded to this better? So now you say, okay, now the first scene, it plays it like it actually was. Now the director says, okay, that's how it really was, but this is a movie and we want to show this where they don't end up being bullied and humiliated, but where they find some way to deal with the situation. And then you keep trying and you keep playing these little scenes until you find one where it's feasible and realistic. Because you may find some, and the director says, yeah, all right, that's an idea, but it's not very feasible. Nobody's going to buy that, right? So no, you go through this, redoing this movie. It's an incredibly valuable situation, unbelievably so. And then, of course, you want to follow up by, well, with bullying, it's kind of difficult, but if it's verbal bullying, it's a lot easier. Put yourself in that situation again, and now implement your different ways of doing it, right? It's very valuable, very valuable. Another invaluable tool for these assessments is actually getting yourself on video and also audio. I did this daily review. It has been a part of my life, all my life. And I used to do it very conscientiously and very specifically and very deliberately in this way described, right? I still do it sometimes, but not as in detail because most of the things that I needed to work with I've developed now as skills of being, right? They're innate. But I never had video back then. I didn't even have really the ability to audio record myself even. We take this stuff for granted now. Yes, there were tape recorders available, but man, I remember the tape recorder that was in the house for a while. It was this huge, great, big, massive, heavy thing, right? Which, at that age, I would have struggled to carry around. I don't even know. I mean, it had a mic, but now that I remember that thing, we had it, but I don't know where the microphone was. It was like a thing that you had to plug in, long mic like that. I never remember seeing the mic with that. No, anyway, but still, it just wasn't realistically available. Anyway, and it wasn't mine anyway to use. So, like many of those things. uh, Right. So another invaluable tool for these assessments is actually getting yourself on video and also audio. Today's world, this is super easy, right? I mean, we can easily record on the phone a conversation and record them, even if you have no reason to. Just any chat with your friend, and where you say, "Wow, I would have liked to do this better." And just listen to yourself. Watch yourself on video. It's really helpful, right? As then you can detach somewhat and gain that all-important external view. I'd recommend starting with the audio first, like recording your phone calls. Oh, yeah, Biella says it. Sorry, I was preempting there a little bit. Because the objective here is not to assess how you sound, but how you dealt with the conversation, how you reacted and the emotions involved, and how you felt and came to feel, right? Were you influenced, affected, and otherwise led in some way or another? or was how you were self-determined and so on? Ah, such a huge point. Apply the same to watching yourself on video, but be very aware of how much appearance affects perception and also how much your existing self-image can distort our perception. It's such a big point there, such a big point. Remember, you are building and practicing, acquiring new skills, qualities, skills of being, and abilities. As such, they usually require a good measure of trial and error. Thus, be careful of making premature assessments when it comes to your self-perception. Yes, thus, be careful of making premature assessment when it comes to your self-perception. Realize you are a process, and as such, in development. Yes, we are a process. This is what we are as human beings. If you apply all of the above, and especially if you constantly keep your overall intent in mind, you will not only gain a self-perception of yourself you can rely on, but will also come to develop additional methods and ways to improve your self-perception. Yeah? Biella. Very powerful. Yeah. Very, very powerful. That is a comment. Very good. Yeah, very nice picture of Biella here. Hello, Biella. Hello. Or potential Biella. Potential Biella. It's interesting how almost all of them had short hair in some way. Just the way it came out. Yeah. No, I do picture Biella with longer hair, slightly longer than shoulder length. Yeah. So I guess mostly it'll be called shoulder length. Benabulous, where are you, Beena? Are you there? I'm keen to hear any comments from you. It was hard going through all of it without any comments from Beena, without any response, interaction with Beena. It was hard. Or maybe Beena got called away and she can hear, but she's not near the mic. Are you there, Beena? Beena?
Yes.
Were you able to listen some?
Yes. Yes.
And any commentary?
I was just thinking about one question. What's the difference between perception and perspective?
Ah, I perceive there's trouble,
Hmm.
right? Let's say
Yes.
two people are arguing. This is my perception, which means that the information is coming at me and I perceive it. Now, how I perceive it is influenced by many factors, right? Assumptions, beliefs, expectations, etc. But essentially, the perception is what we would say is happening. Yes,
Hmm. Yes.
that's what basically is, or what something is, right? What's happening, what is. Perspective says, oh, wait a second, that's one way to look at it. Yes. Now, there's perspective is saying there's a second, a third, a fourth, a fifth, an nth, right? So this
Yes.
is now saying, well, wait a second, my first initial perception is not necessarily accurate because there's multiple perspectives. But then also, once I have accumulated multiple perspectives, and then you ask me, well, now, right, let's say I go and I interview the people and say, well, actually, we were in a play and we're doing street performance, yeah, or we were pranking somebody. So we weren't really arguing. We were just pretending. All right, we made it look very real. Oh, so there wasn't an actual argument. I have to update my original perception. There was an
Uh,
an argument that was made to look and appear as if it was the real argument. You see?
yes.
Right? But now also you can get multiple perspectives, right? And somebody else now, or at least I may not know this. Somebody else in the crowd may be saying, well, I think these guys are faking it. Yeah. And somebody else says,
Yes.
oh, well, what's a prank, right? And so there's multiple. I still cannot say because those are just the perceptions of those people. So now, if you ask me what is my perception, I will say what I perceived looked like an argument on the surface, but potentially could be something that's staged, that's artificial, that's done for a purpose, that's not real, etc. Yeah. See, now my perception has been expanded. So we have, when it comes to the difference between perception and perspective, Perception would include all the perspectives. Are they always included? No. But perception ideally includes all the perspectives, whereas perspectives is a particular perception.
Okay.
So perspective is a particular perspective. Yeah? Typically not including an entirety of you. Yes?
Yes.
Yeah. Makes sense? The difference between perception and perspective. Great question.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So self-perspective would be, how does my loved one see me? A very particular view. How does my boss see me? How does my employee see me? How do my fans see me? Huh?
Yes.
It's all perspectives on the self. Now, self-perspective relative to self-perception. Yeah?
Yes.
Take those deluded fools. I'm sorry, I don't want to be nasty to them, but there's no other word that accurately describes them. Huh? Because if you're getting injured, hurt, right, in severe pain, I mean, you saw sometimes that these guys, they really get like where they get hit in the gut, on the stomach, right, in the body shots. They are intense pain, and oh my God, I never realized it could hurt that much. Being hit in the face is not nearly as painful as getting hit in some parts of your body, by the way. A lot of people don't realize
Wow.
this. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Not even close to it. I mean, you get, like here, where typically you get a black eye. It's not particularly painful in and of itself, but if you get like a liver shot or something, kidneys,
Wow.
it's profoundly painful. It's way more so, right? I mean, yes, it's unpleasant to get hit there. But it's not that agonizingly painful. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Not even close. Anyway, so these absurd fools, right? Their self-perspective is that they are good at fighting. Yeah? But of course, we know from those videos that this is an inaccurate self-perception. But at the time of challenging, this was their self-perception, when it was actually only a perspective. And it was a distorted perspective that came from their idea of themselves, right? So they had taken this idea, a perspective, and distorted it into a perception. In other words, they made what was a perspective and an idea, not necessarily, because perspective isn't necessarily accurate, right? How you see things, the perspective doesn't mean that you're seeing the truth of it, correct?
Yes.
I mean, like the old thing with the blind man and the elephant, right? The trunk
Yes.
isn't a hose pipe, it's a trunk. Yeah, they didn't have the overview. And likewise, those deluded fools took a distorted perspective. Now, might say the actual word perspective implies that it's not fully accurate. So it's kind of a distortion inherently. Inherently,
Yes.
perspective is inaccurate, a distortion, a less than the full truth, right? Which is why it's so valuable to get, or necessary to get, multiple perspectives. Yeah, one or two or
Yeah.
three, you might still not get the full picture of what you're looking at, right? So they took a particular perspective that was an idealistic perspective, a deluded perspective, and translated it into a self-perception, which enabled them to actually act on it. Isn't that fascinating, Beena? They took a deluded self-perspective, made it into a self-perception, and thus could act on it because they believed it to be true now. As a perspective, it wasn't true. As a perception, it was true. Yeah?
Yes.
Very
Yes.
powerful stuff. Very powerful stuff. Very cool.
Yes. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure. Any more, Beena?
That was the thing I was like, really trying to understand that.
Oh. I mean, is it understandable now?
Yes.
Okay. It's very cool. Very, very cool. All right. Anything more? Any more to discuss, share, comment? What else stuck out for you?
So many things, but I was just struggling with this clue. Really, so many things I want to share, and of course, I want to ask also. But right now, I'm just dealing with
Okay.
this blue thing. Yes.
All right. All right, sweetness. No problem. I love this. I love this. Absolutely love this. You know, most joyful. And just that one question is enough, right? Because it's
Yes.
transformative. But also learn here from Beena. Yes. I mean, hopefully I do the same thing. When I don't quite fully understand something, I come and ask. It matters. I mean, if you had asked Beena before she asked that question, do you have some understanding of perspective and perception? She probably would have said yes.
Yes. Some. Yes.
Right. But your honesty said, I need more.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Absolutely love that. Brilliant. Most wonderfully magical, Beena. Absolutely most wonderfully magical. Just
Yes.
awesome. You know, and to go into that granularity where I get it, I really, really do get it, right? And that's why,
Yes.
again, put this into a dictionary of power. Yeah? Self-perception,
Yes.
self-conception, perspective, self-perspective. Write it out so that you own it. So that once you really know it, I don't have to remember what it means. I know what it means. Yes.
Exactly. That's a
Uh,
difference.
Yeah. And then you're able to articulate what it means on the fly, like I did. I haven't written that out before, but I was able to give a nice dictionary definition there. You know, and I didn't have it right at my fingertips in the beginning, but you know, as I went through it, okay, and you work it out. You develop the skill. Very, very, very
Yes.
valuable. All right. On that note, we end. Yes, Beena.
Yes.
All right. Brilliant.
Yes. Thank you so
Brilliant. So
much. Thank
now,
you, everyone, for being here. And okay, yeah. Sometimes I was missing kind of listening more because okay, this is what I used to do, and now I'm talking more in live also, but which is also fun, of course, because at some point you need to share and you need to practice also. You need to implement all
no.
those things what you have been learning. So it is, of course, it is coming by attunement, and it is coming right on time for me. So I accept it and I enjoy that.
You enjoyed
But then
listening today. Is that what you're saying?
no, I'm saying that, okay, I'm enjoying talking also and sharing
All right.
also. But today it was like going back to the innate
Right.
thing of listening more,
That's what
which
I mean.
is,
No.
yeah, so this is very interesting for me because when you actually minimize your activities, listening, capital H hearing, is minimizing your doing
Yeah.
as much as you can. Because then you minimize that, and whatever you do then takes all your energy, your attention, your
Yeah.
honesty, your clarity of intent, everything comes into that few or okay, just one doing sometimes. So the doings or the actions in capital H hearing are so powerful because you really pick and choose really the needed one, absolutely crucial one. And that's why capital H hearing is so fun because it sounds like very passive, it seems like, but it is not. It is actually like the samurais they were using. They have very limited movements, but whatever movement they choose is with precision.
Yeah.
And this is what I was. So today was a fun day also. I was enjoying that. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much, sir, for sharing.
Absolute
We will
pleasure.
see you guys Sunday.
Sunday. We'll see you
Yes,
Sunday. Yes.
yes, we will see you guys
Brilliant.
Sunday, and Sunday we will read more.
Yes.
And before we go, please, if you watch us live or recorded, please do like, comment, share, and subscribe
Yeah.
because questions are really valuable. They are love notes from the universe.
Yeah.
It's a proof that universe trusting
Yeah.
you more than you are trusting yourself, and it adds value. It adds a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
value,
Oh
and
yeah.
by
Oh
doing
yeah.
so,
Oh yeah.
you will train your algorithm to give you more
Yeah.
what you are
Yeah.
right now paying attention to.
Yeah.
And by doing that, you will help the future generation also. It is just
Absolutely.
creating
Absolutely.
more
Yeah.
demand. Every number counts. You are just adding a number into that. That okay, the people like these type of stuff also. They are not just into random watching videos for 30 seconds. They are in foreigners also. There are a number of people who really want to see that. This
And
is
over
how you're going
time,
to.
sorry,
Yes.
being to interrupt you there. Over time, it tells
No,
the
no.
creators, right,
Exactly.
who are making things, hey, this is what people want to hear, and they make more of it, and you shift the paradigm.
Exactly. Exactly. So this is what we are doing. Please do click like, comment. You will see us on TikTok and Instagram today. We were live there.
Hopefully, it says live.
Yes. So we are
In the
doing that.
restream,
We
it
are
says,
working on it. We will see.
yeah.
And
So if you
if it
are on
is,
Instagram and you do
yes,
see us there and you don't see the end of it, you can go and find the end of it on YouTube, because they said only an hour for Instagram and we're over an
yes,
hour. So if you want to see the
yes,
rest, go to YouTube
yes, yes. Thank you so much, Syl. Thank you so much.
or Facebook, I guess. Yeah. Bye-bye,
Yes,
everybody. All right.
yes.
And meeting for